Welcome to the We Got Problems podcast with co-hosts Curtis G. Martin, Rhonda L. Brown, and Khalif Johnson Sr., the one and only podcast where solutions get discussed to our community's everyday troubles. Each week, you will hear mind-blowing conversations and actionable tips and strategies that you can implement in your daily life to become more effective. We got problems and we got solutions.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. This is We Got Problems, episode number 38. I'm here with my co-host, Rhonda L. Brown.
Hey, everybody.
Also, my second co-host, Khalif Johnson Sr.
Hey, how y'all doing, y'all?
And we have a special guest here tonight, Jessica Brothers. And my name is Curtis G. Martin. You guys, like I said, welcome to the show. And tonight we're going to talk spirituality with Jess.
Yes. What up? So, of course, I am Jessica B, but I'm also the BK from Hot Laughs. And, that's always the topic I like to talk about as we move into these new energies in the world. We got a whole new world coming. A whole new world. I feel like Jasmine and Disney, the Princess Aladdin. So how y'all been? How y'all doing? I know this is We Got Problems. I mean, spirituality. Do we got problems in the spiritual world? I mean, I know there are some. I don't know how deep y'all want to get tonight. We're gonna have to keep it limited.
We got candles for that. Oh, my candle green, so the green screen don't work. Okay, my candle green, so it don't really work on
got here. That money candle over there.
Yeah.
It's coming up. Oh, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, I was looking because my money candle got real money in it. I don't know about nobody else's money candles, but I know mine's got real currency up in mine. So I smell money really burning when I burn mine.
So I got a question for you, Jess.
That's important, but yes, go ahead.
So I hear people often say they're looking for God. Some people say they're looking for spirituality. What's the difference?
Man, so there's so many parts to that layer of an onion, but I would say this much because, we often mix spirituality and religion. And so looking for God oftentimes will be something that comes from that religious point of view, right? Because we are taught that God is this being in the sky that is outside of us, when the reality is God is within us. We are God, right? And God is within our bodies, within who we are. We talk about spirituality, and a lot of times I think there's a lot of interchangeability with religion and spirituality. One gives you the ability to be free in your free thinking and the confidence to be your authentic self, which is more of a spiritual connection, where religion, I feel, is more controlling, more about creating these structures and these abilities to label us so that there's a control, where you're always looking outside of yourself for your answers, or you're looking outside of yourself for clarity, or you're always looking outside of yourself, never trusting that gut instinct feeling you get when you go certain places or when you're around a certain person and the energy that you pick up on. So for me, it's the difference in that ability to have that ability to be free, right? To be free thinking, free of thought, free in yourself, free to be authentically you. We try so hard to do things to fit into this religious standard of spirituality, so to speak, and they use that word interchangeably. And it's been something even during slavery days that they use as a way to control us, right? We got stripped of our languages, we got stripped of our culture and our customs and our traditions, and we're given this book, a Bible, that's telling us these stories, these allegory stories that they try to use as a way to control us as people. And so that's, for me, is where the difference is.
So somebody that's on their journey to find themselves or get in that spiritual world, or so to speak, where would they get started at?
Man, this spiritual journey is not for the faint of heart. I'm gonna say that. So I think it starts with the ability to question who you are, question the things around you, just having that ability to be inquisitive, but also, when you get those feelings within you, like when I go around this area, my stomach don't feel right. Or it's like, don't go down that alley, don't go to the left, take that right turn. And you're like, I heard that voice in my head, but who is that, right? Like exploring that part of you, really getting into understanding your connection to your outer world, and then just within you, what's in your mind, with things that are within you as your innate gifts. A lot of the times I think we also spend a lot of time where schools tell us You're supposed to be this. School tells you how you're supposed to move. Your parents, they have certain ideas that they want for you to have. But what about what you want? What about what resonates with you? Some people are energy healers. Sometimes they can go and give somebody a hug, and that person, after they've hugged that person, they have such a euphoric feeling afterwards, and you don't even realize you're healing somebody just by being your authentic self. So, I definitely say question everything. And we're in an age where spirituality is becoming a fad too, which can be a gift and a curse, especially for people who are practitioners who really spend time working in the craft of healing people through, mediumship, psychic development, being able to do telepathic channeling, Reiki healing. I mean, there's so many different modalities within spirituality that, questioning and finding resources and just being able to tap into yourself is important.
All right, cool, good stuff.
So, look, y'all already know this, but I have the dreams, and I never I didn't used to listen to them. I just thought they were just dreams, that's what you were always told when you were younger, oh, that's not real, it's fake. You don't have to listen to them. But now I find myself of course, I have a dream journal, but I find myself looking at every time I have a dream, I'll Google what it meant. How how true are some of those things, like the websites that you go to? Do you have trusted ones that you use?
So yeah, I mean, like I said, spirituality has definitely become a fad in this time and energy that we're in, and so you definitely have to weed out the good and the bad references and the resources. A lot of the stuff that I've learned over time has come one from, if I see it and I saw a YouTube video on it or I read on it, I would divine meditation too, to tap into it through a meditation session and just going within and spending time and meditating on some of the things I've heard. Tapping into the Akashic records. That's one of the modalities I use to help people with their healing, is going into the Akashic records, which is literally the ether. It's the place that all thoughts, all actions, all relationships, anything that you've ever encountered, whether it was this lifetime, past, present, or future, gets recorded there. And so there's an ability to tap into that through meditation and raising your kundalini frequency to tap into that energy and be able to tap into something from your past or something currently in your present that may be providing a block for you, or even just something that you just need clarity upon. So I definitely say resources, you got to kind of go through them, sift through them. Dr. Alim Bey, he's someone on YouTube who does a lot of research on, Lumeria and the Anunnaki and just spirituality and how we've developed through that over time versus religion, and who we are as spiritual beings having a human experience. So he's been a resource that I've looked into. There's such a wealth of books and knowledge out there too, but again, take with a grain of salt. One of the things I think for me in my spiritual journey was being able to connect back to my ancestral connection to my roots, right? The indigenous melanated person that I am. A lot of us were born with that energy already within us. And colonization has happened where our gifts and our culture has been, just being exploited. And you have people who have taken our gifts and have used it to monetize off of it. They've built their own kind of empires off of being an Akashic record practitioner. But then I realized those who are not connected to an ancestor have to use a prayer to get into the Akashic records, where energetically I can tap into my ancestors because I know them, and I can send a meditation session and go into the Akashic records, no prayer needed, because it's a direct connection to that energy, that direct connection to that spirituality. So that is definitely just going through those resources, definitely spending time in meditation and divining on things ahead of time, and then going and
Okay.
fact checking.
All right, so it with all of this fake, everybody looking for a quick dollar. Everybody trying to hustle out here. We got the Miss Cleos of the world, and all of the fake people out there that's really out here trying to get just general information. They give you general. Oh, I see a name that starts with the M. You have a Michael, and they just keep on naming off until oh, I know somebody, and then they were like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go with that. Michael's telling me, I've seen a lot of stuff in my lifetime. I've seen a lot of stuff, and it's so much malarkey out there that you have to really cipher through. Like when you're going for your journey, and me, I'm skeptical about everything. I'm not one of those people who finna just jump on and say I believe in this or I believe in that. I'm really, really protective of my energy and my attention. And with everything going on, metaverse, everyone's trying to pull for your attention right now. How do you go about, safely traveling through your journey and finding what is and isn't fake? Because there's so many people out there that's just really trying to get a buck. Oh, you come here and let me tell you something for 5 minutes. I'm gonna need $100 for that. Like, it's so many people out there that's really giving real practitioners a bad name. How do you cipher through the BS to find someone who can kind of help you along your spiritual guidance, along your spiritual journey? I should say. How do you have somebody help you along your way, and what are some of the places people can go to kind of find that? Like, find some real people who really do the work, because I know it's some people who do good work out there. And me just going through, just seeing your team, and I love your crew who you roll with, big alien vibes. We outside. So if with certain people, and even in your circle, you have people that are not always true to who they say they are. They are doing what is popular, or maybe what they heard someone else in the room doing. So how do you kind of navigate through this safely without getting yourself into some stuff that is really, it can be dangerous, can it?
Absolutely. And see, I was trying not to come on here with my Tupac energy today, but I guess you want me to bring the Tupac out of me, because that's one of my biggest pet peeves is the fact that, as someone who was born with these gifts and tried so long to deny the ability to be psychic, right? To be able to channel someone's whole grandmother who's passed and like get her name or describe who she is and give messages of like things you did as a kid with your grandmother that nobody else would know, or even things that you're going through right now that nobody else would know. And it's just like, how did you know that? And it's just like, I'm divining within my gifts. But absolutely, I mean, it's so detrimental. One, if you're getting readings from people, I always say find someone that resonates with you. Find someone that you can ask them questions before you go into a session. And I don't mean questions where they're, because this is one thing I've noticed with people who are, I would say, phony, fake charlatans, is that they'll ask you questions and people don't realize how much they divulge of themselves right away. Someone be like, so tell me about your grandmother. Oh, well, my grandmother was born in 1993. She was bald headed. She lived in Virginia. Like, you tell them all this stuff about you. And then when they go into doing this reading for you, what they're doing is regurgitating everything you told them already. And they're trying to put a spin on it to keep you there, one, as a client. And then they instill this fear. Oh, you must be afraid of something in your life. You got to come back to me in 2 weeks so we can do this ritual to get that fear out of you. Almost like mindfully controlling someone, like using, persuasion as a way to get people to invest in your business. And so I'm really big on customer service. If you want to come to me and ask me, what does the session entail? And I'm one of those type of people, and I ask you certain questions. Don't give me too much information up front. I will tell you, stop talking. I don't want to know, where you are, who you are, because what information I'm getting is really necessary for your healing, and whatever's coming through is meant for you. And I don't want it to be tainted by anything you're saying to me, because I am still human, right? I'm still tapping into a spiritual part of me. My pineal gland gets this information and decodes it into information that could be past, present, or future. But I don't want you to taste that, because then we get into our ego and our emotions, and it's like, okay, well, I remember they said this, so let me try to tie it all together. Um, and definitely it can be very detrimental. I had a client, or just someone I was talking to, and they had a reading where their wife went to someone, and the person predicted or said that they saw that this man had a sexual relationship with her sister who happened to be dead. So one, couldn't verify if this relationship or this intimacy ever happened, but his wife left him based on this woman who gave his wife a reading. And then this woman kind of played on her emotions because she was so upset. And so she's like, well, come back to me anytime, you need another reading, come back to me. And she was really playing on her emotions. Right. And so this woman started paying this woman, thinking she was getting clarity. And she's like, every time this one card comes out the deck, anytime I shuffle, that card is representative of your cheating husband. And he never cheated, and it was a difference of opinion, but there was no way to really check the facts of that, because one, your sister's deceased. And, and he's just like, I've never been even the guy. We've been together 12 years. I've never cheated on her. Why would I cheat on you with your sister, and let alone someone who can't even speak for themselves? Or, like, why would I would be distraught right now? Like, I wouldn't even want to be with you. Like, she passed away. And so his whole relationship, was just unraveled from her getting a reading and trusting someone she thought was legit. And now their whole 12-year relationship is over. He can't see his kid the way he wants to. He's trying to go through a custody battle. So it's really important to find someone that resonates with you. And if you ask questions and they're not willing to give you the customer service reassurance that you understand, don't go with that person. Or even if you feel like just for a minute you feel like you're being coaxed into doing something that doesn't resonate with you, stop. Because there are people out here who do play on that. And it does give people like myself a bad name because there's so much work that goes into being someone to do this healing work. I have to clear myself every day. I have to do shadow work. I have to meditate. I have to also separate my 3D life from when I'm dividing on some spiritual information I'm getting. So it's really about finding someone that works with what you're dealing with, what it resonates. And before you even get a reading from someone else, work within your own energy and see, well, what do I feel about this? This job that's coming up for me, what is it giving me in my body? What do I feel? And a reading should just kind of be something to reinforce or just kind of check with the information you already know within you to say, yeah, okay, it aligns. Okay, yeah, that definitely is the way I need to go. Or, okay, this doesn't align. Let me go sit with myself and meditate on this a little bit more to get clarity. But yeah, definitely finding the ability to resonate with the people.
And when we talk, I'm sorry, I know you want to jump in, Rhonda, but when we had spoke, right? I remember you told me and you gave me a name, and I'm like, that's my nephew, right? And it's crazy. I didn't get a chance to talk back to you about it, but his father ended up passing over, and he was a junior. So I'm thinking you was probably telling me about my nephew, and you probably was telling me about his dad. And things always happen for odd reasons. Just want to throw that in there.
So you kind of touched on my question because it's going to be almost a new year, and you already know everybody has New Year's resolutions, and and I know you started talking about doing shadow work. Do you think that's important to do before like people even start thinking about resolutions?
Whoo, child. I mean, I think that should be the resolution. Shadow work should be the resolution because when you're unpacking the things that, because we pick up a lot of energy. I mean, we've had 18 months of COVID and just the world of fear, the fear mongering that happens. We pick up a lot of low vibrational energy and being able to ascertain what's ours and what isn't. Shadow work is definitely a great way to do that. And shadow work can be journaling. Shadow work can just kind of be sitting within meditation and understanding parts of you. Inner child work, I think, one of the biggest things that is always ongoing for adults is going back and revisiting our inner child, whether that's to bring them out so that we can still keep that playful energy about us, or whether it's, talking about or addressing the triggers as children that we went through or traumas that we've experienced. You never realize as a kid, sometimes you go back to your parents, you're like, remember when you did this one thing where I asked for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and I asked for you to cut the crust off and you didn't and I cried? And your parents like, yeah, that was so silly. It's like, no, that was the end of the world for me. I felt like you didn't love me no more because you had cut the crust off my sandwich just one time. Like the things that affect us as children that as adults we think, oh, that shouldn't affect them. They're fine, right? But it can affect you to the point where you become an adult. And now when anytime you ask somebody to cut the crust off your sandwich and they don't, you're ready to punch somebody in the face, right? So shadow work is so important. And, I just want to reiterate, shadow work is not just a one-time thing. I hear people be like, yeah, I'm done with my shadow work. And that's another thing. Ask practitioners if you're working with them, when's the last time you did shadow work? And they'd be like, oh, I'm done with that. I'm finished with shadow work. I don't have to do no more of that. Run for the hills because we're always growing. We're always incorporating. We're always having relationships. There's conflict. There's things that make us happy. There's things that make us mad. There's things that frustrate us. And we have to unpack those things. And shadow work is a place to really delve into that. So, just making sure that we're doing that. So New Year's resolutions come from you doing that shadow work and then seeing where you need to create boundaries, because boundaries can be a New Year's resolution, right? Resolutions don't necessarily always have to be about the things we need to change, but maybe ways we need to protect and guard ourselves and like really be confidently walking in who we are authentically. So, yeah.
Right. And then I think the shadow work will help you like be ready for it too. Some people want something so bad and, they're working towards it, but are they ready for it?
And you never know if you're ready for something unless you go into that shadow work and then you realize, I really don't even want that. Why did I even ask for that? That's not even me. Who is this person? And so you got to do that. And that ego, I mean, we all operate from ego. And one of the things I think, people would say, oh, you got to die, you got to kill your ego off. No, our ego is something that kept us safe, right? A lot of times our ego is our protection. It keeps us from dealing with that whole fight or flight energy. Your ego, a lot of the times, is something that keeps you safe or being harmed in a way that, could be detrimental to you or be more traumatic. or more traumatic impact. So, dealing with that ego too, sometimes we get very, in our confidence, and sometimes confidence can become cocky. It's like, well, why are you going the cocky route? What's going on with that ego? Did you check yourself today? What's happening? And sometimes we don't realize like someone may spark in our ego, like, oh, this person thinks that they're better than me. Oh no, I got to show myself out, right? I got to be that egotistical person. It's like, well, why do you feel that way? Because we all exist in our own different energies, and we all are unique and special in our own way. Why do you feel you're in competition with someone? Right? Then you go back to something in your childhood that may have happened. It's like, oh, my mom used to compare me to my brother. When I didn't get A's and I got B's and he got A's, I got compared. So anytime another male's in the room, I feel like I'm back to that time with my report card. It's like, wow. And you've been living with that energy for 30 years, bruh. You want to tap into that sooner? And now it's affecting your relationship with your kids. It's affecting your relationship with your wife or your significant other. And it's all because we didn't work on checking our egos at the door, working in our shadows, and working through those things that are hard. Having those hard conversations even with our spouses and our family members. Creating those boundaries where it seems hard is important because it's about self-preservation.
Hey, Jess, you mentioned a lot about meditation. What's a good way to meditate and some tools to use, like candles and whatever else that we should use? What's some good things to use?
Absolutely. With meditation, I know people be like, I can't do it. I can't sit still for a while. I think in order to get to a place of being able to meditate, it starts with just being able to sit quietly with yourself and not do anything and just be. Kundalini breathing, pranayamic breathing is important. Raising your Kundalini frequency and energy, because we know that the body is just a ball of energy constantly. We're always energetic beings. It doesn't die. So meditating with like binaural beats are helpful. Spending time in a quiet space. Singing sound bowls are good. You can use crystals. Sitting and meditating with crystals. Setting space up where you can be just still enough, where you're not having all these distractions coming towards you, and being able to clear your mind. There's also like exercises you can do, and if you work with someone who is a practitioner, I do meditation sessions too. I do sound bowl healing sessions as well, because it's important to us getting the basics of meditation. Like the thing that's so easy to do is the one thing people don't do the best, right? It's like, oh, it's so easy, I can do that, but then sit for 5 minutes in silence. See how long that lasts for you before you try to get up and do something, or you thinking about the dog, or like literally just clearing and being still for 5 minutes a day, starting with that mindfulness, and then moving through that and increasing it. My goal is to get to at least an hour and a half of meditation a day. Am I there yet? Absolutely not. And I'm in my journey, and I've been doing this, and I do this work every day, but I'm not there yet. So, and being kind to yourself in that journey, because you're not going to get it overnight.
Wow, that's good. And so you mentioned too that you do sessions. So if somebody wanted to get one of your sessions, what could they look for, and what could they find you at for those sessions?
Yeah, so I definitely am one who believes in the giving and receiving. And so I do a lot of free stuff, even in Clubhouse. Sometimes I just do free consultations, but I also do things. I have a website as well. You can find me at the bkbrujalabs.com. I do oracle readings, whether it's with cards, divining with cards. I do past loved one readings where you can give me a picture of your past loved one. I can tap into their energy, get you messages from those who have crossed over. I do see dead people, not in the sixth sense, since they make it all glamorized in movies, but I do tap into past loved ones' energy and can work with you in divining on that. Akashic Records is another platform, like I said, where we'll tap in. People want to know about things from their past lifetimes, cord cutting, removing blocks. I mean, meditation itself. These are all things that I am really, really mindful about, because it's about being a metaphysical healer. And that's what I don't like labels, but I'm getting more comfortable with labels, and that's my shadow work, but being a metaphysical healer, being someone who sees the natural properties around us and seeing how energetically and spiritually we can heal ourselves and heal each other through this property versus like the synthetic things that the doctors use. Like you can kick the habit of smoking through hypnotherapy, right? But then you go get the patch. And now instead of you quitting smoking, now you smoking, you're eating the nicotine gum, you're getting nicotine coming through your system some other way. It's like we're just replacing one habit with a different form of that habit, where meditating and mindfulness and getting into tapping into your mind, because it's so powerful how we can redirect ourselves and kick habits, kick, addictions. But it's just being open and working within that energy.
Okay. A lot of stuff that, I do in health and wellness, it starts with like mirror work. We start with just getting our mind together and starting to heal from there. With everything that's going on in the world right now. Like, it's so much stuff, a lot of fear out there. Like, how do you start healing and from how do you start the process of healing? Because everybody, like you said, meditating is cool, but working with a practitioner is cool. But our mirror work, what are some of the things that you recommend for a person, like steps that they can take to kind of get better and start their journey? Even like you said, before they go and sit down with someone, like, is there like do you have like a formula set up for your clients that you deal with, that they can start looking towards before they come to see you? Or is there a process that they should go through to kind of start their process and their journey? Because there's so much stuff going on out there, and we've been given so many taboos about, you know what I mean, our ancestry, and it's so much negative vibrations out there. A lot of people don't really understand this. And if it's not of the book, if it's not of one of these books that they're traditionally used to, then everyone is usually scared. Like, they're scared of spell casting, they're scared of spiritual, all the common stigmas that they put on there. So someone who's really new and they really want to start getting on their journey, like, how do we go ahead and start this up, and what can be done, or what do you think could be the best method to step about it?
Yes, no, and that's a great question because I feel like there's no one way to do it because we all deal with trauma differently. We all process our instant, like things that happen to us. We have different experiences that could be similar. So I would say, to your point of like mirror work, absolutely, that's another form. But I think for overall, it's definitely sitting with yourself, and sometimes it starts with journaling. It depends on where you're at in terms of what you're ready to discover and what you're ready to like really address and tackle, because sometimes we have traumas that are really really deeply rooted, and they're really really painful, and sometimes it's like to go through that on your own, it's scary as shit, right? And I would say to your point about that scaredness, we often don't realize having confidence in ourselves, being confident in knowing who we are at the core of ourselves is the first step. Who are you? Who is Khalif? Who is Rhonda? Who is Curtis? What makes you tick? What makes you ticked off? What do you love? Are you someone who problem solves really well, right? Are you someone who wants to help everybody? You're just passionate about helping people? Are you someone who's like, I don't give a shit about none of these people in this world? I don't like to look at people. I hate people. Like, why? Start to look at who you really are at the core and start from there. And, we always think our heart center is the first place we need to look. Believe it or not, that gut, that sacral, that's the first brain, right? When you get hungry, all the thoughts that go through your head. Remember that one time you start dieting and you're like, damn, I'm on this diet. I started off good. I had a smoothie. And then you're like, damn, I want hot wings. I feel like I want chicken and pizza and everything else. You want everything. All of a sudden, it's like, where did that come from? But we have to understand how our centers of our response to things in our brain, whether it's your brain here and your pineal gland, whether it's your heart center, or it's your, your gut and your sacral chakra, how does that help you make decisions daily? When you wake up, from the time you wake up, how are you making decisions through your day? Are you on autopilot where someone else is making the decisions for you and you're just accepting them? Or do you really take time to divine on what it is you're going to eat for the day? Divine on what you're going to wear, divine on how you're going to interact today, divine on how you're going to wake up in the morning and what you're consciously going to choose. I choose every morning to wake up consciously with peace. And then somebody want to do something to piss me off. Now I could choose to react to them and be like, okay, you pissed me off. Let's go Tupac status. But what's that going to do for me? Just make me go down another hill of spiraling into something else that I'm going to have to do shadow work for anyway at the end of the day? Don't want to do it. So, definitely knowing who you are in the core of you, and then using, like you said, the divination tools, doing the mirror work. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it is working with a practitioner, but finding out who you are first and really going within. And like you said, there's this big fear. That's fear mongering. I mean, it's the quickest way to control people. When you're fearful or when you're in a frightened mode, you don't even make decisions where you're thinking straight, right? Like your brain is all sporadic and someone says, all right, we got to go do this. It's like, yeah, let's do it. But you didn't even have time to think about it because you're in this mode of fear. That's creating all your adrenaline to run. You're getting anxious. You're having all these things happen. So finding you first and then allowing yourself to divine on what feels right. Like, okay, let me go look in the mirror. I looked in the mirror for 5 minutes and it was hard to even stare at myself for 5 minutes. Why? Right? Let's unpack that. So I think that's the main part, is finding who you are with it and then going from there to navigate.
And that's the thing. I think like some people, they're gonna think it's easy. It's not gonna be easy at all. Like even if you're like you think you got everything going right in your life, you're the happiest person ever, doing that mirror work is gonna be probably one of the hardest things you do in life. But if you stick with it, it's gonna be the best thing you've done, in my
No,
opinion, anyway.
absolutely. And I would say to your point, like a lot of the times when I started on this journey, I didn't know where I was going to start. I didn't know what was going to happen. And I just made the intention in my mind. It's like, okay, if I'm going to walk on this gift or whatever this is for me, allow the right things to come on my path. I literally just made that up in my mind that I'm going to walk in this divine purpose. However it's going to take me down this road, I'm going with it, because for so long I was told this in my head. Like the fact that I could get names for people, I'd have dreams about certain things and then it would happen. And it's like, how did you know that? But I've always been taught, no, kids are meant to be seen and not heard. You're not allowed to be in grown folks' business. How do you know so-and-so had that issue happen in their household? You don't even know them. And it's like, well, I had a dream about it, and so being able to just take that time and really just be mindful of who you are is important. That's the first step. And, meditation does help you to sit long enough to be still enough to hear those answers.
And you brought up a thing. I just have a quick question, because I know you said children need to stay in their place. That's what you heard. So growing up, I'm sure it was hard on you. Like, what would you say to parents nowadays if they have children, with special gifts, or that come to them and tell them like, hey, I had a dream about this, or I know this happened. What do you say to them parents? Since you went through what you did as a child.
Yes, and I'm actually literally raising my shadow right now in a child form. So it's interesting that you asked that, because I literally am living it daily. And one thing I would say is, one, don't freak out, don't get scared, because I think we automatically allow fear to take over. And you don't want your child to be labeled as different, right? And so I remember my mom just saying to me, "Oh, I don't want you telling people about that, because then people are gonna think you're different." And she has the gift. She divinely can tap in with dreams and connect with people who are past loved ones. And she just cut off all her gifts. She denies having them. And even as much as she tries to walk through life and not be in those gifts, it still comes up. And sometimes it can be really loud. So definitely as a parent, I would say, your child is unique. You tell your children to be special, be themselves, but then when they tell you they have these gifts, it's like, I don't want everybody to look at you differently. So one, just being able to sit with that child, ask questions, see what they're telling you, feel for what they're getting. And I feel like we have such a plethora of resources now with spirituality, where before it used to kind of be this hush underground thing, where now it's like out in the forefront in the open. And people saying, I'm an oracle, or I read tarot. People are really owning their labels, so to speak. So being open to that, having those conversations. One of the things my kid loves to do is take my tarot decks, and she gives herself readings, right? And so I allow her to, touch the cards, play with them, get to know what those cards are, because it's important for her to understand who she is, and she has the confidence. Like I asked her, well, how do you know that you can give readings? She said, because I'm smart and I'm spiritual. She's 4. The fact that you know the word spiritual, I'm gonna give you that, because where did that come from? I didn't teach her that. She's just watching. And she meditates. She'll sit and hold her hand, and she says, breathe in deep, hold it, exhale slow. Like she goes through the motions, and I'm just like, wow. But it's also because I'm leading by example. I'm walking in my divine light and showing her what it is to show up confidently in yourself. And so it really starts with what we do and how we move in our own lives to show our kids that example. But don't be afraid, allow your kids to walk in who they are. And being different right now is the most amazing thing you could possibly be in this world, where everyone's being sheeple. And the world is just allowing you to walk, and everybody got a number or a lot number, and that's all you are. And that's nothing beyond that.
Okay, so
Okay.
you and Trash talked about the fear of all taking all this in with spirituality. How much of that fear do you think came from the powers that be now making sure that certain people don't find their power?
Tap in.
I was gonna throw the double dutch rope to you, but okay, you want me to jump in? You gonna jump in behind? I'm gonna turn while you jump. I would say Absolutely, 100%. I mean, we look at what I call post-traumatic slave syndrome, where there's remnants of us being in positions where, and not all of our families and lineages were slaves, right? We have some of our family that may have come through that line of slavery. There's some of us who were already free and here beforehand, and we have lineages of Native people, Indigenous people. But um, absolutely, that's always been the case, right? Control people through fear. I mean, this has been the dawn of ages. And it definitely still plays a part now, and I feel like more so now it plays such a huge role, especially with COVID and like, oh, are you going to get the vaccination shot, right? But me as someone who's a spiritual practitioner who picks up on energy and knows certain chemicals, I can't even eat certain things that'll throw my spiritual ability to be connected off. So why would I inject myself with something that I don't even know what's in it that could turn up all my gifts for the rest of my life? I don't want to do that. So, definitely, being mindful of the fact that that's the agenda. The agenda is to keep you controlled, the agenda is to keep you not in your mind and in bondage. And that's been the dawn of ages. That's always been the case. Someone wants to have the power and someone has to be powerless in order for that to happen. When that's really not the case, but that's what we're taught. To go back to the spirituality and to tap into that, imagine what a free, joyful world we could have. Wow. Most people can't even see
Mhm.
that beyond their face because you're always taught be fearful, do things safe, play it safe, get a job, don't tap into that, don't do this. But there's so much healing that you can do from just being naturally tapped into spirituality and tapped into meditating and really eating differently, connecting with the elements. How many times have you been in water and people have physical therapy and want to learn how to walk again? We just take for granted a lot of the natural things that we're already connected to.
Okay, I don't want to keep on just picking you. I'm picking you apart with all my questions, but we have a lot of people that tend to they see that you have a gift or they notice your energy, right? And you have so many vultures out here. They're energy, spiritual vultures. And what they try and do is usually they'll try and trauma bond. Like, or like, oh, I have this problem going on with me or this going on with me. And if they hear anything that you got going on and they just try and unload their problems, what's a good way to kind of deal with energy saps, like those leeches, those energy leeches? Because they sit there and they'll
Those
sit there and
cocksuckers, those roaches.
yeah, they'll sit
You
there
almost
and
got her
you might be
choking.
having something good going on. You might have
No,
something
because as
good
they're
going on
talking,
in
I'm
your
thinking to
life.
myself, I'm like, oh, succubus, incubus energy, succubus, incubus energy. One, I would say get some mace and karate chop in your throat. Don't do that. Don't do that. You're gonna need bail money if you do that. Do not do that. I'm just kidding. Haha. No. But you definitely have to look at, people who look for that energy, and you'll start to see patterns that show up. I feel like, when you go to when you work in an office and you got that same coworker who anytime something's going bad in their life, they always come to you and they're like, oh, I felt so better talking to you. Okay, now I can go back to my desk. And you're like, well, wait a minute, I feel all bad now. What you left over here? Can you take it back with you? You know, um, being able to discern when you start to feel that. And I think when you're being conscious of who you are and what's going on with you, you start to see the patterns that develop in those spaces where you see people trauma bonding. Because my thing is it's okay to talk about your trauma to unpack it, but then we need to look at ways to resolve that, right? Like you got problems, we got solutions. It's the same kind of energy within your spiritual walk. So if you out here just talking about your problems and people offering you solutions and you don't even want to hear the solutions, you just want to talk about the problems all day, then I gotta, set up a boundary and say, hey, I might not be the right practitioner for you. Or maybe you're not ready to do this work, but here's some tools, here's some ideas or things that you can use to start to activate your thought process and move from there. But protection, grounding yourself. I mean, there's ways you can energetically protect yourself too and be mindful of people who come around you because like I said, we all are here to relate to each other. Relationships, that's what we're humans want to relate to one another. And so when we can find the commonalities to relate, it feels great. But when it's starting to just only be about trauma and that's all I feel is energetically drained every time you leave, or I feel mad after I speak to you and I want to go fight somebody, it's like, wait a minute, how is that possible where 20 minutes ago I was singing rainbows and sunshines, right? I was feeling so lovely, and then this energy changed. So, looking for those patterns, looking at the relationships and seeing people who only come around when there's something bad happening or when it's negative, and they're not there to celebrate those highs and the lows and the successes that you have too. Those are all things that I would say are red flags to be like, you trauma bonded. You a succubus incubus. Can't do it today. I'm choosing the Tupac
Oh,
life.
see, with me, right? I didn't get, I wasn't into numerology. I had no clue on what numerology was, and one of my boys came over and he started breaking down how the numbers work. And when I gave him my birthday, he told me I'm a 22 or my number was a 22. And he when he started explaining it to me about the master numbers and what numbers are like high attraction, and then I started to think back on my life, right now, and I started thinking about my circle and how many people come to me with problems, and I've always been the baby of my family. So it's like I feel like I'm always like burdened with the the weight of the world always falls on me. And I'm like, am I tripping? Or is this really how it's supposed to be? Like, am I supposed to be getting this? Am I strong enough to even deal with all of it? Because I personally feel like it's not fair. The world definitely isn't fair on how the energy shifts go. And the moment I start shutting off and I go into my hermit mode, I'm viewed as like I'm tearing everything apart because I'm trying to do everything in my power to protect my energy. Because, like you said, like people latch on to you and they're dumping their problems and they leave feeling refreshed and having a nice day. But when I look back and I'm in my mirror, I'm like, man, I don't feel all the way great sometimes. So when I'm dealing with this, I don't know. It just makes me feel different. Do you have any info on like the people's energies and their purpose in life being preordained?
So there was a quote that I had read, and it was something about, the person's like, well, how did you know you were a healer? Well, I kept healing, I kept attracting broken people and they kept walking away healed, right? And they're like, well, why are you now not, working with people? And it's like, well, I can't work with them now because I got to work with myself, because now that I know that I am the healer, I got to heal me, right? So it's almost that energy of knowing, one, that you are the healer, right? You get those problems, like they say, God don't give the hardest problems to the weakest soldiers. You're not the weak one. You're the one that's the strongest. And I feel like there is something to a degree of being part of a family lineage where you're coming back to break some of those traumatic energies within your family or even just within people. Like that's just your gift. You the golden child. They gave you the juice, Tupac. You here to do that work, and it's just like, why is these burdens so heavy, right? And you start to see those patterns. You're like, damn. I'm always the one. I'm the youngest. Why I got to be the bigger person all the time? That was my biggest pet peeve. Why I got to be the bigger person all the time? Why do I have to do the work? And they sat down with a practitioner who I valued and, worked with her for a while, and just to see how much she poured into me for free. Like she didn't want me to pay her nothing. She just saw my gifts and saw my energy. And she would tell me, you are to be the bigger person because you're the healer, and healed people can heal people. So the more you heal you and you heal someone else, you're extending that baton to somebody else to create a whole new healed legacy. How amazing and powerful is that? But it comes with the good and the bad, right? So being able to be a healer means you're going to be healing through stuff that you got to be able to help other people transcend and like transmute and get through. So you got to go through it first. Like, you ain't going to try your products out on somebody else before you try them out on yourself. You're making this pimple cream. You ain't gonna be like, all right, go try this pimple cream. You try it on yourself first and make sure, okay, my product works. I know it's good. All right, now I can try it on other people. So that's exactly how it starts. The healer will deal with a lot of different burdens. And it used to be when I was a kid, I used to be like, where is Ashton Kutcher? This can't be my life right now. I'm being punked. Like, he got to just jump out right now. I used to say when I was little, like, what if you woke up at 33 and they told you today, you're like Jesus, you got to save the whole world. And like, this is your 33rd birthday. Like, you're going to have to sacrifice your whole life. And it's like, these thoughts I was having were no coincidence. It was preparing me for what it is I was supposed to be doing a long time ago that I kind of shut off. And I feel like we leave ourselves spiritual blueprints, spiritual breadcrumbs to activate us when it's time is meant for us to do the work that we're supposed to do. And there's no time frame or time expiration on that. So get out your fear, get into that confidence because you meant to heal people. And there's a frequency. I mean, there's over 8 billion people or something like that. How many of those 8 billion may just only resonate to Khalif's voice and the way Khalif brings that healing to people, or because of the experience that you've been through, they can relate.
He like, fuck that.
You see his face, right? I know that was me too. Don't worry. I can see where you at in your journey. Those are the faces I used to make too. Check. You want a spiritual path? Check.
All I can say is the little white box. The little white box. That's all I gotta say. Is that little white box. It still got.
Now I'm gonna need you to open that little white box and take out all your healing tools and get the healing, because the healed person heals people.
There we go. I like that. Hey, Jess, it's always good having you. Appreciate talking to you. Before we close out, Rhonda, do you have any last words?
Man, do the mirror work. Get to know yourself.
All right, good stuff. How about you, Trash?
Oh man, just stay true in your light. Follow your own purpose. You know, don't let anyone dictate to you what their journey for you is. Find your own journey. Make sure you're around good people that are really good to your spirit and good to your energy and make you feel like a better person. Before I close, I just want everybody to get a chance to follow the BK Bruja. I was going to call you Jess, but make sure you leave your information so everyone can definitely get up with you. Maybe schedule a session. They will really be thankful later.
And that's the bkbrujalabs.com.
The bkbrujalabs.com, or one word. And I'm also on IG as the BK Bruja Labs. You can find me there. I'm also on Facebook as the BK Bruja Labs LLC. But yeah, I'm all on social media, and I do have a website. So, and if you ever have questions, I'm always open to do consultations. I answer questions. Like I said, part of this journey is giving away stuff for free, because you can't do this work without understanding that there's a charitable piece to it too. But you also got to pay your bills and take care of your kids, because they like nice things too. So understand that's part of it.
Hey, one thing Jess always told me, she said that half the time people hold their breath, right? That stuck to me, right? Like, you guys make sure you're out here breathing, right? Everybody, let's make sure we breathe. And you guys, that's it. We got problems where we discuss solutions to our community's problems or issues, and we out.